Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
What's up, Coach? Are you looking for a way to elevate your off-season skill development? Well, look no further. With the Bology app, you can build a workout with our library or create your own content. Send that workout to your players, and then your players complete the workout by recording their session on their phones. You can monitor and encourage competition with our leaderboards for every workout. Bology offers player development solutions in the palm of your hands. Get your team started today by going to bology.com for more info.
Things borrowed. And I think you've already mentioned so much about Coach Meyer and his willingness to share. And I think that is something I love about the coaching profession is that there hasn't, in getting to do these hoops talks, there's been nobody that said no and nobody that was just holding on to everything, very willing to share. But what are some of the best things that you've borrowed lately?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you, most recently, what came to mind when I actually saw your list, and I got to say this, I was very fortunate, Matt. I got invited this past summer to work Damian Lillard's Formula Zero camp out in Phoenix for NBA guys. This was their second year for high school and college guys, and I can't do that I'm bound by NCAA rules. I can't work with high school players off campus at all. But I was kind enough to be invited. Phil Beckner, his workout guy. Phil's a great guy and also an incredibly sharp guy, one of the best workout guys out there for my money. They invited me to the camp for a couple days, and Phil told me this before the camp. He said, you're coming out here to work, and we want you to work, but I think when you leave, you're going to feel like your tank got filled up a little bit too. And he was dead right. There were so many things out there, little things that I learned, but here are some of the big things. Is number one, we had 17 NBA guys or guys that either been in camp, G League guys, or that were on current rosters. Damian Lillard was at every session. It was his camp. He didn't walk around in flip-flops. He didn't walk around with a bottle of Gatorade and different. He was in every session going full throttle.
That's big time.
One of the things, watching that and just being around that for a couple of days, and I've told our players this year over the years, the elite players that I've been fortunate to coach over the years that have been drafted or had professional careers, the elite ones think differently and they do things differently. And so one of the things that I brought back from that is part of that whole experience. And the formula, by the way, is character, hard work, and accountability. And one of the things that I love is that they were so big in telling these guys the truth and doing it in a caring way. But at the same time, I think a lot of times today, we live in a world now where accountability and discipline are almost bad words.
Right.
And they're not. They're the highest forms of caring. And we don't hear that enough and we don't see that enough. So one of the things that I brought back, so important, at any point in that camp, and we were kind of told in the staff meeting prior to camp starting, we want you guys to pour into these guys and tell them the truth. If their footwork's wrong or bad on a rep, tell them. If they're not going at a tempo that you think they need to, tell them. And I think that is it. And I say that it's not like it's new or revelational, but I think one of the things that I brought back, it was just a reinforcement that players want and need to be told the truth at all times. And sometimes, there are players that certainly have a hard time hearing it. And I don't think you have to drop everything like with a hammer or a sledgehammer or blow up a room to do it. But it's so important for players to hear truth, gut level truth about how they can get better. One of the slogans of that formulas that I love so much, we want nothing from you and we want everything for you. And I think that's such a powerful thing to convey and then to live out when you're coaching and teaching players at any level. We want nothing from you, but we want everything for you. So again, I think that was something that I came in. And then from, a technical standpoint, I'll tell you what, last year we had a player that was really good off some catch and shoot screen actions. And I went back. I couldn't remember the play, but I remember Bob McKillop. I watched the DVD, and then I'd also seen some clips. He did a clinic on an out of bounds play, and we stole that play and implemented it, and it was really, really good for us. So in terms of, there's something I gave you first something of the intangibles of the game. And that was something tangibly that I borrowed most recently from Coach McKillop, who I think is, again, a great coach. Great coach. I remember hearing about him when he was a high school coach on Long Island, and guy that I worked camps with, Stan Kellner, used to say Bob McKillop's one of the best coaches on the island, hands down. And obviously went to Davison, had a great career, but we borrowed his out of bounds play, and it was very effective for us.
You mentioned the discipline and accountability, and as soon as you said, I thought, man, those are two words that just don't seem to be very popular in our culture anymore. I think you nailed it. So, but you're right. I think in what we're doing with players, both of those are really necessary. But I think what allows us to continue to bring discipline, to tell them the truth, is about the relationship, because I think the relationship dictates how we say it. Absolutely. Where I had coaches that I was blessed to have great coaches at every level. One of my college coaches, my first one, it was the same message to all of us, no matter who we were. The problem with that is I could take it and crave that. I had some more talented teammates that wanted no part of that type of message.
Yep.
And I think that is a place maybe where communication and obviously guys like Coach Meyer, they're probably doing that back then. But it is, the awareness is up of meeting players where they are, still communicating discipline and accountability, but the right way and the right tone for them.
Oh, absolutely. And you nailed it to start that, when you opened up on this particular area, Matt. I don't think you can coach anybody and not have a relationship at some point with. Now, obviously, going back to that Formula Zero experience, I was out there for 2 days, but even in those 2 days, we shared meals together.
Yeah.
We sat in meeting rooms. So we did develop a certain
That's also level. A different, because I've worked PGC camps for years. We basically all start out with the idea of, we don't know each other, but I'm going to tell you the truth in what I see. Yes. And we start with that baseline, knowing that, like from the kid's perspective, if you don't like me, I'm gone in 3 days. You don't have to deal with me anymore. That's the big difference, in my opinion, between seeing your players every day, knowing you're going to see them again. We're going to see them in a month. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And the whole point that I was making there is, regardless of the time frame you have, in some way, shape, or form, you have to communicate that you care about them. Yeah. And again, that's why I like that thing. We want nothing from you and everything for you, which basically, and again, I don't want to open this up yet. We can hit that another day or another time, or part of this thing. But to me, the ultimate form of leadership is servant leadership.
Yeah.
Leaders serve. A true leader, a great leader, serves the people around them. And that's one of the things I think you can convey both verbally and non-verbally to players. One of the things, Pat, and she didn't obviously create this, but she was so good at living this out, and she certainly said this at times, and we've heard this dozens of I can't remember who the originator of this was. It really doesn't matter. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is so true. And another one that I got from Family Life Radio years ago: rules without relationships result in rebellion. Before you can lay rules or things on people, or discipline or accountability, before you can coach someone and really kind of get into them in a positive way, they have to know that you care about them. They have to know that you want their best, both for them and from them. And two tenets I've always lived by. And if you say, give me two things that are the underpinnings or foundations of your teaching, one is you love players unconditionally and you tell them the truth all the time. And I think if they know that you care about them and that you do want their best from them, but you are going to tell them the truth, you're not going to allow them to not be good or to take a shortcut or to do something incorrectly. Again, letting them know that because I love you, I'm going to hold you accountable to high standards. I see excellence in you. I see so much more in you, and I want that from you. And having the discipline piece and saying, I love you enough to tell you that this is not okay. I care for you enough that I want to jump in the way of you and this thing that you're going to do that's going to create a problem for you. And I think, again, in today's world, in our society, sometimes we've gotten so mixed up that we've lost the value of those things. But yes, the whole foundation of being able to teach or coach anyone is the relationship piece, because without a genuine, authentic relationship with your people, I don't think you can effectively coach or teach for any length of time. You might be able to insert little bits and pieces, but if you're going to expect and want and demand the best from them every single day, they have to know that you care about them. And I don't care if you're a coach, a teacher, a platoon leader, a business owner. I think that has to be in place.
That phrase that you said a few times, nothing from you, everything for you. Golly, I wonder how many players feel the opposite of that. They feel like their coaches, teachers, whoever, they want everything from them, but then nothing's for them. Nothing's given to them.
Yep.
And I think that is a maybe to take a pulse of, or how to know that your culture in your program, I said the culture word in your program is heading in the right direction. Do your players feel like that you want everything for them?
Yes.
And not just constantly, the idea of always withdrawing, but never depositing into their account. I think that would be I don't know how you take that to get like a pulse of your team, to figure out how do you guys feel this is going for you? Do you feel like we as our coaching staff, we want everything for you and that we don't want things from, I don't know that.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a good question to ask. And I know this too. There are times when I've asked players, how can I be better for you? How can I coach you better? How can I be more effective? I tell you, there's a player when I first got here, and I asked her that probably 3 or 4 times in her time here. It's like, I feel sometimes that I'm not as effective for you, or not I'm not at my best for you to get you to be your best. How can I do now? I'm not going to certainly compromise standards. If they were to tell me, well, you know what?
I don't want you to make me run as much. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to do any of those extra workouts. I just want to show up. Well, obviously, I can't give on that. But honestly, in terms of a relational piece or a communication piece, that's the sense I ask. And you said something else that triggered this question that I've asked myself at times, Matt, over the years. And I think it's important for all coaches to be able to ask this of themselves and have enough self-awareness and have enough courage to be gut level honest to what you might think, or even ask others, what does it feel like to be coached by me? How does it feel to be coached by me? What does that feel like? Do our players feel challenged? Do they feel encouraged? Do they feel loved? Do they feel that they are held to high standards? I would hope that all those things are in place, but I think it's important. We ask players all the time to think about what they're doing, and are you
evaluate? Yeah.
I think we need to hold ourselves to those same standards. Nowhere is it written that coaches can't be held accountable either. And again, I think it starts with ourselves and maybe somebody on our staff, but certainly players who have earned it. Now, again, I might not ask somebody who's just, I don't think is going to, they're not playing hard every day. And I've got to challenge them to do more or play harder. But somebody that I really respect and they're giving everything they have every day, I might ask them, hey, how does it feel to be coached, by me? Are you getting what you need? Is there something I can do better, do more of? And again, I'm going to take that. Certainly, I'm going to respect it, but I'm also going to take that through a filter and say, again, where are they coming from? What are they saying? And weigh that. But, another thing that came to mind as you said this, Matt, there's a great book, Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrmann. And he talked, you have that on your shelf?
It's on my to-do list, and I got to pick it up.
Tremendous book. And one of the themes in that book is transactional coaching or transformational coaching. So for instance, a transactional coaching, you're a point guard. Hey, we need you to bring the ball up. We need you to pick the ball up full court. We need you to be a distributor and hit the open shot. And man, whatever else, I really don't much care about what else is going on.
And if you don't do it, we'll just,
we'll get somebody else,
Yeah.
As opposed to, okay, that's me defining your role. And those things are important for our team to win. But Matt, I also want to know what you think. Yeah. I want to know how you feel the game. I want to know what you see. Maybe we'll watch film together. I want to know what you see. I'm not just going to be pointing things out to you and saying, hey, do this, do that, go here, go there. I'm going to be saying, Matt, what did you see here? Or what were your thoughts? You made this pass. What were you thinking there? What did you see in that moment? Or who on our team, Matt, do you think right now you could really help elevate their game? So at the end of the day, we're trying to build the person in addition to building the player. And that's the transformational part of coaching that after 41 and a half years, I still love it so much. I'm still passionate about it because in addition to building the player, you're building the person. And it's that old thing again. And I love this phrase, we're planting trees under whose shade we may never rest, but we're building other people up for a future. I may long be in the ground, but maybe somebody I'm coaching today, when they're 63 years old, can have an impact on someone else in a way that is meaningful and significant. And, by that stage, I'll long be in the ground. Mm-hmm. But again, I've hoped to have planted a tree under whose shade I may never rest.
But especially when dealing with players and helping them to change behaviors, not just on the floor, off the floor. Coach, I feel like we approach them as if that's not the way that growth happens. We want the change to be instant in them. And I almost feel like at times that I'm a failure when in the course of a season or maybe even a player I've had for 2 or 3 years, he's still making mistakes that, we've talked about, we've worked through it. I've spent one-on-ones with this guy. We've got to remind ourselves of that idea of we're planting seeds and the odds of us seeing the fruits of that labor, they're small. Maybe we're lucky enough to get that text message 4 or 5 years later from that player out of the blue. It says, you know what? I got it. It took me a long time. Those are those coaching paychecks that we're waiting on. But I feel like what a great reminder that in the same way that their shot changes in their mechanics, changes in their mentality, does not change overnight. And it takes a long, long time. Changes in their mindset, literally their character, the decisions that they make. Those aren't instant either.
No,
but that doesn't mean that we just say, well, then next person's problem. We just keep planning and we keep, I like that. I like the word hope. Their hope that at some point in their lifetime, something clicks with them and it happens.
Absolutely. No question. And, we would all, and I think that's part of the things that we fight as coaches is that we're always not very patient. We want things when we want them. We as leaders, we see the big picture. We see what we want our team to be and to play like. And we see this particular player and what they need to play like. They're a very important cog in the wheel. So we need them to play this way in order for the mechanism to run at optimum level and optimum efficiency. So we become impatient at times when we don't see that, and that's natural. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think we have to temper that with the fact that we're dealing with human beings. it'd be nice to be able to punch a button or swallow a pill and expedite the maturation
I
process.
told you it. You got it. Let's move on.
Yeah. We just can't do that. Everybody runs their own race, and everybody's on their own path. Now, once again, there's a balance. It doesn't mean that you're not going to hold people accountable. If they're making the same mistake over and over, we're going to talk about that. That might mean that they might have to, somebody else might have to play more or be inserted into a lineup, or you're going to need extra film sessions. So we're going to set this up and demand that you're, doing it till you get it. But the point is that with patience, with perseverance, and again, I think we have to communicate to them both verbally and non-verbally. We are not giving up on you. We know you can get this. We believe you are capable of this. And so we're going to work together. And again, I think, and one of the things I will tell you today in the world that is different, I've tried to do a very good job of adapting to this or having this mindset. Coaching it's collaborative. I mean, I know my college coach, if he'd have told me to go, climb the rafters, I'd have climbed the rafters. Now, I might have questioned him internally, but now I think players, I really, the why is so important. Not just the what or the how, but they have to know the why. And so again, the collaborative effort of communicating and conveying to a player, we are not giving up. You're not getting this right now. It's not to our standard, but know this. We believe you are capable, and we are going to work with you to make this happen and to get it done. And again, unless there's a character chip and a flaw in that player, I think most players I've been around will respond to that.
Another great example of maybe a test to see if your program is headed in the right direction is how often do players ask questions? Do they feel like this is an environment where questions are going to be met with a thoughtful answer, where we actually take into account what they're seeing? Because I don't know about you. I mean, I don't take a shot all season long. Like I'm 0 for 0 the last 16 years in games. So It really does matter what they see and not what I think I see as a player that I maybe once was at one point in time. But how many questions are they asking? And then we got to be careful not to think because there's 0 questions, that's just because we are explaining it so well that they've got it. Right. Maybe they're not comfortable enough to ask questions.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that goes back to, it's like any good teacher, any good classroom teacher that you've had or been around, they create an environment of there's an open invitation to be inquisitive, to be curious, to seek out truth and to seek out answers and explore those. It's not just hey, we're going to read from a book, or I'm going to write things on a board and give you facts, and then you're going to regurgitate them at test time. There's an environment that you create as a teacher. And I think that goes back to something you said a little earlier, the art of coaching. I think one of the arts of coaching is to create an environment where questions are encouraged and where curiosity and inquisitiveness, they are encouraged. One of the things it's funny in talking to coaches, sometimes coaches will perceive it as a threat when a player will suggest something or say, Coach, how about the final scene in Hoosiers, right? Gene Hackman says, Jimmy, you're going to be the decoy and Brad's going to take the shot. And they're just all sitting there. And, now nobody spoke up, but Jimmy finally says, hey, I'll make it, and I think that's a good thing when you encourage. Now, again, it has to be done respectfully. It has to be done in a way that players aren't just going to run roughshod over plans. But I've talked to coaches, and it almost surprises me, Matt. There are coaches that are very threatened by that, or they're very put off by that. And then there are other coaches that are very welcoming of that. And I just think, one of the things that kind of subliminally maybe, or a secondary thing that I've always tried to do, is I want to ignite a fire and a love for the game in players. I want them to not just be good at what we're doing and improve their shooting and improve their skill. That's so important to me. Don't get me wrong. But one of the underlying things, maybe the secondary layers that I want from players that I'm around is I want them to love the game like I love it or close to it. I want to ignite a passion and a curiosity and a sense of learning about this game that gets them fired up. So they might, like before you even, because I ask a lot of questions of players as I teach, but before I even do, sometimes players will say, now, why did you have us do this? Or why'd you have us curl this cut versus, coming off this side? I love that. I invite that. And so I think, again, as coaches and teachers and leaders, we help to create that environment by encouraging those questions and getting excited about them, looking somebody in the eye, or maybe a shoulder touch or a fist bump, saying, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Now let's explore that, versus saying, because I said so, because that's the way the offense is set up. I think you can kill someone's curiosity and passion for learning, or you can ignite it. And I choose to do the latter.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.